January 22nd, 2016, Orange County Men's Jail, California. 3 dangerous men disappeared from a maximum security facility. They left behind no trace, no tunnels discovered, no overpowered guards. Just gone. For 6 months, they had carefully plotted their escape from one of the most secure jails in the country. The mastermind was an Iranian-American so dangerous and manipulative that he could make anyone do his bidding. Their escape plan relied on bed sheets, hacksaws, and a single cell phone. They crawled through ventilation ducts, rappelled down 5 stories, vanished into the night. How do you disappear from a fortress designed to hold the worst of the worst? How do you navigate a maze of air ducts with no map? And what happens when greed, betrayal, and a split-second decision turn a carefully orchestrated escape into a deadly game of survival? This is the story of the Orange County Jailbreak, an escape so bold it made national headlines, and a manhunt that ended in the most unexpected way. Orange County Men's Jail, not the kind of place where anyone expects to disappear. A fortress 5 stories tall, designed to hold the most dangerous criminals. Inside, over 60 inmates crammed together in massive dormitories, always under the watchful eyes of guards patrolling the catwalk. No privacy, nowhere to hide, and for most people, no way out. But for Hossein Nayeri, this wasn't just another stop before a life sentence. It was an opportunity, one last shot at freedom. Nayeri's story starts long before his days inside Orange County Jail. Born to Persian immigrants, he grew up in Fresno, charismatic, intelligent, but always willing to bend the rules. He wasn't the kind of person who accepted authority easily. After a brief stint in the Marines that ended with a discharge, his life spiraled out of control. By 2012, Nayeri's crimes were as shocking as they were brutal. He was accused of kidnapping a marijuana dispensary owner, torturing him in the desert, mutilating him in ways most people couldn't imagine. It was a crime that left no doubt. If convicted, he would never see the outside again. But Nayeri wasn't about to go down without a fight. He fled the country, vanished into Iran, where American authorities couldn't touch him. He stayed hidden for 2 years. Eventually, law enforcement lured him back, using his ex-wife as bait. Nayeri was caught, brought back to face trial, thrown into the maximum security Orange County Men's Jail. For most, that would have been the end. But for Nayeri, this was just the beginning of his next plan. He knew his best shot wasn't winning at trial. It was escaping before he ever got there. The jail was designed to hold people like him, violent offenders with nothing to lose. A fortress, yes, but every fortress has a weakness. From the moment he was placed in Module F, Nayeri's mind went to work. Inside the jail, Nayeri was just another face among dozens of inmates packed together in a dormitory-style holding cell. Hard to imagine anyone escaping from a place like this. Every move visible, every sound echoing through the halls. But Nayeri saw something no one else did. Behind one of the bunks, there was a ventilation grate. For most people, it was nothing special. For Nayeri, it was a potential escape route. The grate wasn't just a piece of metal, it was a challenge, sealed tight. Even if he could break through, the vent might lead nowhere. But Nayeri was willing to take that risk. He just needed a way to cut through it. Nayeri wasn't going to do this alone. He was smart enough to know he needed help. He found it in 2 other inmates. Bak Duong was a seasoned gang member with a reputation as a fixer, a man who could get things done, make things happen. Jonathan Tew was younger, caught up in a Vietnamese gang, looking for any way out. Together, the 3 of them formed a plan. Nayeri convinced Duong to use his street connections, get a hacksaw smuggled into the jail. It wasn't going to be easy, but Duong had a network outside, people who could deliver. In a place like Orange County Jail, trust was a dangerous thing. 68 prisoners in the tank, Any one of them could snitch for a reduced sentence. The fear of being exposed hung over them constantly. But Duong managed to pull it off. The hacksaw was smuggled in, hidden from the eyes of the guards. For the first time, Nayeri's plan wasn't just an idea, it was real. Now they had to move fast. After the guards completed their rounds every night, Nayeri, Duong, and Tu went to work. For weeks, they sawed through the metal bed frame blocking the vent. Complete silence was essential. They had to hide their tools, hide their progress from the guards, from the other inmates. One wrong move, one sound too loud, and it would all be over. The tension inside the jail was rising. Nayeri's trial was getting closer. The window for their escape was shrinking. After 16 days, they finally broke through the bed frame. Direct access to the vent. But the hardest part was still ahead. The vent system was a maze. Dark, narrow passages that wound through the jail's infrastructure. They had no idea where it would lead, or if it would lead to freedom at all. But they didn't have a choice. With the bed frame out of the way, they spent another 8 days cutting through the grate itself. Each night was a test of nerves, guards patrolling the halls, completely unaware that an escape plan was unfolding right under their noses. Finally, the grate came loose. They were in, but crawling through the vent was only the first step. Now they had to navigate a labyrinth of air ducts, pipes, and shafts running through the jail. No maps, no way of knowing which direction would lead out. They had to explore blind, feeling their way through the dark, hoping they wouldn't end up trapped deeper inside the walls. Nayeri knew time wasn't on his side, his trial inching closer every day. Any slip-up could mean the end. But inside that maze of pipes and ventilation ducts, he had a bigger problem. There was no way to navigate these narrow, dark spaces without light, without it. The three men were just rats in a maze. They needed a tool, and not just any tool. They needed a cell phone. In the world outside, a cell phone might seem trivial, but inside Orange County Jail, it was everything. A flashlight, a way to communicate, even a means to film their escape. Nayeri knew what needed to happen next. He turned to Duong again. If Duong could get them a hacksaw, surely he could smuggle in a phone too. Despite the layers of security, smuggling contraband wasn't uncommon. Guards could be corrupted. Networks existed. For the right price, almost anything was possible. Duong had the right connections, the kind that could get you anything. And just like before, he delivered. When the phone was in their hands, the first thing they did was turn on the flashlight. The darkness that had been suffocating them was now pierced by the soft glow of the screen. Suddenly, the maze didn't seem so impossible. They could see where the ducts led, what obstacles stood in their way, how to navigate around them. But for Nayeri, having the phone wasn't just about finding their way out. He was a narcissist. The idea of filming their escape was too tempting to resist. To him, this was more than a prison break. This was a spectacle. As they crawled through the narrow passages, they started recording, documenting every step. They thought they were invincible, confident that their daring escape would become a story for the ages. But reality was far from that. The ventilation system was literally a maze, twisting pipes, narrow shafts. One wrong turn, and they could end up in another part of the jail. Or worse, right back where they started. They moved carefully, one step at a time, navigating sharp corners and steep drops with precision. Night after night, they would sneak into the vents, exploring deeper into the jail's inner workings. The air was heavy, the space claustrophobic, the constant fear of getting caught gnawed at them. But they had no choice. The only way out was through. Then, after weeks of inching their way through the system, they found it. The path to freedom. But there was a problem. The exit they had found wasn't at ground level. It was 12 feet above them. and it was covered by wrought iron bars. They had come so far, and now this. Sawing through the bars could take months. They didn't have that kind of time. Nayeri's trial was looming. The clock was ticking. They needed more information. A map wouldn't cut it. What they needed was satellite imagery, something that could show them the layout of the jail roof and the surrounding neighborhood. But there was no Wi-Fi in jail, no access to Google Maps. Nayeri wasn't the type to give up easily. He had a new plan. He started paying close attention to the staff, looking for someone he could manipulate. That's when he spotted her, Nushafarin Ravagi, an ESL teacher. Nayeri's background gave him an advantage. His English was perfect, but he used the classes as a way to get close to her. The inmates called her Nushi. She was kind-hearted, naive, the type of person who saw the good in everyone. She lived alone with her dogs. It didn't take long for Nayeri to earn her trust. He was charming, polite, friendly, everything she didn't expect from a man accused of heinous crimes. Nayeri played his cards carefully. He told her that his lawyer wasn't visiting him often enough, that he needed to know where his office was located so someone from jail administration could reach him. In reality, Nayeri already knew the lawyer's office was right across the street, but by asking for a map of the lawyer's office, he knew it would also include a map of the jail itself. Nushi, unaware of the real motive, agreed. She never suspected she was becoming part of a much larger plan. To her, it was just a simple favor for a student who seemed nice enough. What she didn't realize was that she had just handed Nayeri the key to his escape. The map showed everything he needed: the layout of the roof, the distance between ventilation shafts, where they could rappel down. Nayeri had successfully manipulated her into becoming an unwitting accomplice. Now with a hacksaw, cell phone, and detailed map, everything they needed was in their hands. The walls that once seemed impenetrable were slowly beginning to crack. But as they stood at the base of the shaft, looking up at the towering ventilator above them, reality hit hard. 12 feet of iron bars and steel separated them from the rooftop and from freedom. Nayeri, always the strategist, had a solution. Bed sheets. In prison, something as simple as a sheet can become a lifeline, literally. They would use them as ropes, swing them over pipes, pull themselves up inch by inch toward their exit. It was a delicate operation. One mistake could undo everything. But Nayeri's mind was always working, calculating every move. They tied the sheets tight, shimmied up, all while the other inmates and guards remained blissfully unaware. The prison kept strict count of everything issued to inmates, including bed sheets, but somehow, whether by luck or sheer oversight, the guards missed something. And Nayeri seized on that mistake. The longer they stayed inside the walls, the higher the risk. Any one of the other 68 prisoners could snitch at any moment. Men desperate for reduced sentences. No shortage of potential informants. The fear of being exposed pushed them to move faster. Every night under the cover of darkness, Nayeri disappeared into the vent, working silently, cutting through iron with precision. It wasn't just about getting out. It was about not getting caught. The constant need for secrecy slowed them down, but they had no other choice. 6 months of methodical work. Finally, after 5 months of slipping past guards and sneaking into the inner walls, they broke through the last barrier. They were on the roof, but their relief was short-lived. Cameras. There were cameras all over the recreational area. One wrong move, and everything would be over in seconds. But luck was still on their side. The cameras were pointed at the rec area, not at the section where they had emerged. They were safe, for now. Looking down, reality hit once again. 60 to 70 feet separated them from the ground below, a drop that would kill them if they weren't careful. More than ever, they needed a way down. Nayeri turned to Du Wong once again. "We need a rope." A simple statement, but it carried the weight of everything they had worked for. If Duong failed now, their entire plan would collapse. But Duong knew how to deliver, whether through drones, corrupt guards, or gang connections. He made it happen. The rope was secured. The final piece of the plan was in place. They agreed to make it happen the next night. Everything had led up to this. They had risked their lives, manipulated guards, outsmarted fellow inmates, all for this one chance. The routine census checks happened like clockwork, one at 5 a.m., the other at 8 p.m. If they were going to escape, it had to be in the dead of night. Santa Ana was a bustling city. Federal buildings, coffee shops, the sheriff's department just a stone's throw away. Daylight wasn't an option. January 22, 2016. At 8 p.m., after the head count was over, the three men set their plan in motion. Go time. The window before the next count was their only chance. From the moment they squeezed through the vent, they were on borrowed time. One by one, they crawled through the narrow corridors of the jail's underbelly. The roof was within reach, but the final obstacle stood tall, 5 stories between them and the ground below. The sheer height was staggering. One wrong move and the consequences would be fatal. But after months of preparation, they weren't going to back down. Standing at the ledge, staring down at the dizzying drop, the men faced their greatest test. Would the rope hold? They hadn't done any tests, no rehearsals, no safety nets. If the rope snapped, if the makeshift pulley system gave way, they were done. And if they survived the fall, they'd be right in front of the Orange County Sheriff's Department. Nerves were steel, minds made up. Jonathan Tew was first, the smallest of the three. He climbed over the side, gripped the rope tightly, inched his way down the 5-story drop. He made it. Relief washed over him as he reached the bottom. 1 down, 2 to go. Next was Bak Duong, the fixer, the resourceful one. He followed, climbing down with the same tense precision. 2 out of 3, Nayeri's plan was working. But Nayeri, the architect of it all, was last. He watched his accomplices descend into the night. Now it was his turn. Everything he had put in motion, every risk, every manipulation, all of it led to this moment. He was halfway down when disaster nearly struck. 2 Orange County sheriffs stepped out for a cigarette break. Nayeri froze in midair, heart pounding in his chest, clinging to the rope, suspended above them. If they glanced up, just one look, and it was all over. His entire escape, months of planning, teetering on the edge of ruin. He held his breath. Minutes felt like hours. One small noise, one misstep, and he'd be caught. But somehow, the guards didn't look up. They finished their cigarettes, went back inside. Nayeri waited, motionless, until the coast was clear. Then, with painstaking care, he lowered himself to the ground. They had done it. The impossible. But they couldn't stop now. The clock was ticking. Less than 5 hours before the next head count. 5 hours to vanish into the night. Jonathan had already set up the next phase. His gang connections came through. Hidden in a nearby neighborhood was a package. $900 in cash. And a gun. Their ticket to survival on the outside. But first, they needed a new look. Duong made a call. He contacted Long Ma, a 71-year-old cab driver, convinced him to take them on a late-night shopping spree. When they returned, they were armed with supplies, new clothes, material for the journey ahead, even a bottle of whiskey to calm their nerves. But things took a darker turn. They held a gun to Long Ma's stomach, told him he had to take them away. What had started as an ordinary night for the elderly driver turned into a living nightmare. The plan seemed simple: make their way across the border to Mexico. Once there, Nayeri could potentially disappear into Iran, a country that wouldn't extradite him back to the United States. Freedom was just a 2-hour drive away. But that's not what happened. Instead of heading south, the three fugitives made an unexpected decision. They forced Long Ma to drive them 400 miles north, away from the Mexican border, all the way to the Bay Area. The decision was as reckless as it was confusing. In the early hours of January 22nd, Nayeri, Tio, and Duong found themselves far from where they intended to be. But they were free. At the Orange County Jail, the escape went unnoticed at first. They had a man on the inside, someone who covered for them during the routine bed check. But it was only a matter of time. 15 hours later, during the evening head count, the truth came to light. Nayeri, Tu, and Duong were gone. The Orange County Sheriff's Department erupted into chaos. Every available officer was mobilized. 250 deputies assigned to the Jailbreak task force. The media was alerted. News of the dangerous trio on the loose spread across the country. A massive manhunt was underway. The entire nation was watching. But while law enforcement scrambled, the escapees holed up in a seedy motel in San Jose, trying to lay low. Instead, they found themselves caught up in the media frenzy. Their faces plastered across every news outlet. They watched themselves on TV, reveled in the chaos they had unleashed. The euphoria didn't last. The longer they stayed put, the more Nayeri realized how dangerous their situation had become. They needed to move fast. The problem, they were running out of cash and options. Desperate times called for desperate measures. Duong, ever the resourceful fixer, turned to Craigslist. He found a white van listed for sale. They arranged to meet the owner for a test drive. True to their criminal instincts, they never returned it. Now they had a new vehicle. But Nayeri had one last loose end to tie up. Long Ma, the elderly cab driver. He had been a witness to everything. Nayeri knew witnesses were a liability. His decision was cold, calculated. Long Ma had to die. Duong, however, wasn't ready to take it that far. Over the course of their time together, he had developed a bond with the old man. Long Ma reminded him of an uncle. Killing him was a line Duong wasn't willing to cross. Tensions between Duong and Nayeri boiled over. The two men came to blows. Nayeri had the upper hand in every way, stronger, younger, more fit. But what Duong lacked in strength, he made up for in determination. In the end, Nayeri relented. Duong may have lost the fight physically, but he won the moral battle. Long Ma's life was spared, at least for now. The next morning, Nayeri and Tio left the motel to get the van windows tinted. Duong seized the moment. He approached Long Ma. "Uncle, we need to leave. They want to kill you. We need to go now." Together, they escaped, made their way back to Orange County. But Duong wasn't escaping anymore. He was done. He made the decision to turn himself in. When Nayeri and Tio returned to the motel and found Duong and Long Ma gone, they knew their time was running out. With no plan, no money, and no allies left, they packed up their belongings, hit the road once more, driving west. The game had changed, low on resources, running out of places to hide. They were not just fugitives from the law, they were prisoners of their own escape plan. Meanwhile, law enforcement was still scrambling, chasing leads that led nowhere. Then came the break they had been praying for, from the most unlikely source. Back, Duong and Long Ma had returned to Orange County, in plain sight. When they stopped at a local hardware store, Duong made a move no one could have predicted. He walked in, calmly told the employees, "Call the police." A bold move. But more than that, Duong and Long Ma had come up with a plan. They were going to try and claim the reward money offered for information on the escape. Duong always the hustler, was now the first person in history to attempt to collect a reward for turning himself in. But more importantly, Duong had given up everything: the location of the van, the whereabouts of Nayeri and Teo. For Nayeri and Teo, the writing was on the wall. The moment Duong escaped with Long Ma, they knew their entire operation would unravel. In that stolen white van, somewhere in the Parkside district of San Francisco, they could feel the walls closing in. Nayeri may have been brilliant, but even he couldn't outrun fate forever. Their luck ran out in the most unexpected way. A homeless man happened to recognize the van parked near a Whole Foods market. He had seen the news, seen their faces, seen that van. A moment of recognition that would bring Nayeri's escape to a crushing end. Within minutes, officers swarmed the van. Jonathan Teo, defeated and cornered, surrendered without a fight. But not Nayeri. For one last time, he ran. He wasn't going to escape to Iran. He wasn't going to escape his past. He wasn't even going to escape a parking lot. He sprinted away with desperation, but his freedom lasted only seconds. Police tackled him to the ground. And in that moment, it was over. His grand plan had collapsed. All that remained was the inevitable return to his cell. Nayeri, Teo, and Duong were taken back into custody. Their brief taste of freedom extinguished as quickly as it had started. But the consequences echoed far beyond their capture. The Orange County Jail was now under intense scrutiny. The sheriff came under fire, accused of allowing outdated procedures to leave the jail vulnerable. Changes came swiftly. Motion detection cameras installed in the utility corridors. Radio-tracked prisoner badges became the new norm. Cell phone sniffing dogs brought in to prevent the kind of communication that had allowed Nayeri's crew to organize their escape. As for the escapees, the fallout was severe. Bak Duong was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Jonathan Teo awaited his own fate in court. But for Hossein Nayeri, the mastermind behind it all, the trial was little more than a formality. He had already been convicted for his brutal crimes, sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. This was the end of the line. No more schemes, no more escapes. Unless he somehow pulled off another impossible prison break, he would never see the outside world again. The doors of Orange County Jail had slammed shut. And this time, they weren't opening. Remember the question from the beginning? How do you disappear from a fortress designed to hold the worst of the worst? The answer is patience, planning, and people willing to do anything for a chance at freedom. 6 months of cutting through metal, 5 stories of rappelling down with bed sheets, a cell phone used as a flashlight, a naive teacher manipulated into providing a map. Hossein Nayeri, Bak Duong, Jonathan Teo. 3 men who escaped from the inescapable. They just couldn't stay free. And that brings us to the end of our story. If you like it, do not forget to like and subscribe and activate the bell button so that you can receive new videos.